So as you can see, there are total 4 subnets, and if we go onto our diagram, there are total 3 subnets actually. 1 subnet, 2 and 3. So if we go to our architecture diagram, we have total 3 subnets. One is public subnet and 2 are private subnet. So this one is the public subnet, this is the private subnet 1, and this is the private subnet 2. These two, if you see the ID C56, it has two EC2 instances. One is the domain controller, and another one is the SQL Server 1P, as we have in our diagram. So if you see in this diagram, in the private subnet we have one domain controller and we have one SQL Server 1P. Another subnet, private subnet, we have only one SQL Server, and in the public subnet we have only one jump box. So let's start accessing our jump host, and then we can start the configuration. Before accessing the jump host, let me change the configuration of the security group. So all the servers are ready. If we see on the status check, it's 2 by 2 check pass. So all the servers are ready. We can use those servers. So let's do one configuration in the security group also. Let's go to the security group. In the security section, we can see the security group. Let's right click and open it in another tab. And if you go onto the inbound role, we can see only one inbound role, that is RDP from my desktop. We have to add one more rule, and this rule will say allow all traffic from this security group only. So we will use custom, and source will be the same security group. So what I am currently doing is I am allowing all the traffic that is coming in this security group. So traffic all the traffic from this security group will be allowed internally. So all these servers will be able to interact with each other since the security group is same and all the traffics are allowed within the security group. So we will able to access the servers from each other. So if I go over security group, see all the traffic is allowed, and internal traffic we can mention in the comment section and hit on save. So now all the servers will be accessible from each other. Let's go on to the EC2 section, click on jump box and click on connect. Once we click on connect, we can see in the EC2 serial or into the RDP client, we can see the get password tab. In the get password tab, we have to upload the private key that we have downloaded, which is AWS AON, and let's decrypt it. Once we decrypt it, we can get the password. I will open one notepad file and write the password over here and jump box. Now let's RDP to our jump box. The public IP of my jump box is this. Let me copy this and open RDP console. See, it's accessible from a desktop. So I have to use this /administrator, and the password is, we have copied the password over here. So see, we are able to RDP to our jump host. So once we RDP to our jump host, let's connect our domain controller from the jump host. So this is the private IP. Let's click on connect and go to the RDP client and decrypt the password. It will be the same key that we used, since we use the same key for all the configuration. So hit on decrypt and the password will be generated. Let's copy this password in our notepad file. This is our domain controller. I can mention AD server. Let's copy the private IP address, and I think I am currently in my jump host. So let me RDP to the domain control. See, it's accessible from the jump host. So since we have allowed security group all traffic within the security group, so we are able to access the other servers from a jump host. And password is so it's accessible. So once we access the domain controller, now we are in our domain controller. 10.0.130.224 is our domain controller IP. Let's start configuring the domain controller. So for configuring the domain controller, we have to go on to server manager. So this is our server manager, and let's wait for some time so it can initiate fully. Let's hit on add role and feature, but let's wait for some time. Okay, I think it's almost ready for use. Okay, so now we have to install Active Directory domain services, add feature, DNS server, continue. We can use only these two features are required as of now for us to configure the AD, Active Directory domain services, and DNS server. Let's hit on next, hit on next, and next, and next, and install. So let's wait, I will pause the video over here and start once the domain controller is installed. So as we can see, my domain controller is installed now. Configuration required. So let's close this and let's hit on promote this server to a domain controller. So now we have to create one domain, add a domain controller to existing domain. We have to create and add a new forest. So these are the three options that we get. If we already have one domain controller and we want to extend that domain controller, then we can use the first option. If we want to have a child domain controller and we have one domain controller for which we have to create a child domain, we can use the second option. But if we have to create a new domain controller, then we can use the third option, which is add a new forest. So once we click on add a new forest, we have to give the name of the domain. My domain is Avengers. Next. Find that the forest name field of the DNS proposed for this Active Directory. Okay, you have to give, sorry, avengers.com. Hit on next. Now we have to create one password for our domain controller. Okay, so we have to give the password of this domain controller. I will give one random password. Hit on next. Delegation for this DNS server cannot be created because the authority parent zone could not be found. Create the DNS delegation. Let's leave that part. We will configure the DNS server. Once we configure the DNS server, we will create the NetBIOS domain name is Avengers. Click on next. This is the location where the domain controller is going to install. Let's hit on next. Next. Okay, so all the prerequisites check passed successfully. And let's hit on install. So once we hit on install, it will take some time to configure the domain controller. I will pause the video over here and start once the domain controller is configured. So our domain controller is installed. Now it's asking us to restart the server. Let's restart the server once.